You are listening to the Source Connection Podcast, an ongoing invitation to remember your true infinite nature and embody your unique human expression. By holding space for the kind of conversations that uplift, inform, and unite us, we are here to amplify the field of possibilities and explore the keys to creating the new. Hosted by Liz B. and Tarah Long. For more, check out thesourceconnection.us, Spotify, Odyssey, and YouTube.
Okay, welcome friends. Welcome to another episode of The Source Connection. My name is Tarah Long. I'm here with my co-host Liz B. and our very special guest, her first podcast ever, Henrietta Woodcox. And before we start, we will, with Henrietta, we'll do our tuning in. But I also wanted to say Liz and I are newly on Substack. So find us there. You can find little practices that we've done just for you. So meditations and breath work and we play games, lots of fun things. So find us on Substack. And also we have a new page on our website called Enrichment. So for all of our amazing guests that we've had on, they have so much to offer. And we have put it all in one place for you. So you can go and see all of their beautiful offerings. So check out the Enrichment page at thesourceconnection.us. All right. So I welcome and invite you all of our beautiful listeners to close your eyes if you'd like, if that's comfortable for you. And just relax. Just taking a few moments together to be together in this very special space, where we're always connected, but now we're just remembering. So feel yourself relax a little bit more. Feel yourself coming into the space and arriving here and leaving everything else just for the moment. Just leaving your lists and your thoughts and all of that, just putting it to the side. And it will surely be there, if you'd like, later. Just for now, just for these moments. Let's come together in this present now, timeless now moment. And feel yourself in your body. Feel yourself slow down. Becoming focused in this now moment. Feeling relaxed, but not passive. Being aware of yourself. Aware that you exist here and now. Just letting everything be as it is. No need to change anything or fix anything or make it different. Just allowing the sounds you may hear. Just letting them be there. Part of this now moment. Really feeling yourself in your body. Just take your hands and place them on your belly, on your low belly. Just breathe a few deep breaths, as deep as you can, into your abdomen. And letting it go. Thank you so much for being with us today, everyone. And when you're ready, you can open your outer eyes again, move your body if you'd like to. Shake it, move it. Ready to have some fun today. I'd love to introduce our guest, Henrietta Woodcox, who is a 12-time national champion, handbell choir director, and master artist. She first fell in love with the handbells in the Aledo United Methodist Church in Aledo, Texas, right? Yes. She's on a mission to amplify the beautiful art form of the handbells, which is a symbol of unity and world peace. She is the inspiration behind the upcoming hit comedy Henrietta and the Southern Bells, written by Carmen Scott and Lynna Yee. Welcome, Henrietta.
It's greetings. It's so wonderful to be here. I'm just so tickled.
Well, tell us about yourself. How did you come to this moment with us?
Yeah. Well, a lot of this really sprung out of not getting invited to play at the International Handbell Symposium last year. And it was such a, it was so important to me. It was such an upset. And it really led to this whole new journey of stepping into new mediums and meeting some people that wanted to help me on my mission. And then they wrote a movie, inspired by me. And I'm playing with, I've never done a podcast before, so this is new. And there's something so beautiful about the art form of the handbells because it's analog. And there's this rich tradition of it. And yet stepping into these new technologies and new mediums and embracing it with this sense of discovery and just like, yeah, we're going to play in that. And I think sometimes in the handbell world, there's a little bit of resistance to that. And I even asked if I could, film a little bit at the Handbell Symposium, and they wouldn't let me. Although their mission is to spread awareness about the art form of the handbell. So it's just so interesting. And it's, my soul was crushed. I just knew it. Like I knew it was such a big deal for me. And then to have that not work out the way I wanted it to, I realized everything is working out for me, and it's not something that happened to me, but it's really, led to this whole other path and these mixing of mediums and just being open and playful and bringing what I have to share, but also knowing it takes a village and being able to meet people that I probably never would have met if I would have just quit or, thought that, oh, this is a sign I'm supposed to do something different. I know it's one of those things. And we're really in the unfolding of it.
How did you get to play handbell? What was that journey for you?
Oh, just getting asked. Our church had a handbell choir, and I loved going to church growing up, and I loved the community aspect of it. And it's one of my sayings is one bell does not a choir make. So it's this, in order to play a song, you need all these different people to play it. And just how pure it's a pretty simple and pure art form. And yet it's so beautiful. And I have never been to a sound bath. I've been spending time in California during this whole movie which is fascinating. You hear so many things about showbiz and Hollywood. And so I'm really doing my best to have my own journey and to not let these stories dictate what my experience is. And the question was, how did I come to play the handbells? But that's how. It was just a pretty simple question, and I like, do you want to join our group? And I'm so glad I said yes. And to make sound like just existence is the canvas. And then you and the bell make this ringing, this frequency, and that's how you get tuned. It introduces you to this idea of frequency and our capacity to create. And the bell really is a metaphor for life. I see it as a metaphor for life in a lot of ways, because like this vessel that I have is just a meat suit unless there's that life force energy. Like, what's the difference between me being alive right now and then like not? This life force energy. And so the bell, in order to be the fullest expression of itself, in order for it to ring, it requires me or somebody else to pick it up and play it. So we become the fullest expression of ourselves in that playful manner. You know what I'm saying?
Do you have the handbells with you, Henrietta?
I'm on doctor ordered wrist rest. So
okay.
I'm not really playing at the moment, which is the whole nother thing, but just got to rest my wrist right now. I don't have any handbells with me.
Okay. We can, you have some places where you've played before that we can send people, right? That they can experience the handbells for themselves.
Or some great YouTube. I mean, you could just go down a rabbit hole on the YouTube videos. There's some really amazing groups out there doing wonderful things all over the world. And I did go to the public performance at the International Handbell Symposium last year. I showed up, I just went anyways. And 300 people from around the world got together and rang in a room. And they had just practiced together that week. I mean, it was incredible. It was. So I've been to a sound bath now, that I've spent some time in California, and it was about the same thing, a little different, but that just being in the room of that sound frequency and how healing it is.
I've heard you speak before about personal and artistic mastery through playing and all of that. So I'd love for you to touch upon that. And I know that's a big passion for you. And I remember you talked about not being able to play the bell right now, but there is a video of you and doing the little exercises with the bell. And it's just the perfection and like the simplicity, but like, it has to be the right, touch and all of that. So I just curious to hear from you. How do you bring all of that into play?
Well, because the bell is an extension of me, my frequency is going to go through that bell, right? And I know I've gotten to places where it became all about me. It became all about the International Handbell Symposium, and I lost sight of just the pure joy and beauty of playing. And so it's a lifelong journey. How am I showing up? And how is it all about me, or is it about this art form of playing? And you never arrive to a destination, I think, and being able always, how can I still approach this practice that I've had for so long with a beginner's mindset, or with that like awe of something that's new, So I think that sometimes we become so focused on this thing that we want to do or this practice that we lose sight of ourselves. And it's a thing of like, how do I show up? And if I want to be my best, then I have to gauge gauge that, because you can get lost too in this like need for more. So how am I just relishing in this beauty and the moment and the now, and having, oh yes, like it's important to have dreams and to grow and to want to, do big things. And sometimes this big thing is like enjoying your life, So it's this mastery. The greatest masters are the greatest students, and always going back to the pure love and like that creation and the creation process, and this idea that like, I can't do this alone. So I want to be somebody people want to play with, I want to, I love the analogy. I love analogies, but the analogy of being the thermostat or the thermometer. So the thermometer just reads the temperature, and the thermostat sets the temperature of the room. And I know what it is to be both of those things, But I know which one I'd rather be, and which one, like when you think of yourself as a leader, that's where I feel like the mastery really sets in, because it takes energy to be that. It might not be digging ditches, and I don't like to use the hard work. I don't like to really talk about that, because it'd just be harder to not do my dreams than it would be to do them at this point.
Yeah. And so growing up in Aledo, what was that like? Because you have such a very positive outlook and disposition now. I mean, and maybe you came out that way, but what was your journey like in growing up and getting to this point where you can see that life is happening for you?
Oh, wow. It definitely was an overall happy upbringing, and it was Aledo at that time was a pretty small town. It's not so small anymore. You knew everybody, which was cool. It's interesting to have felt different, just not a lot of cultural diversity. So I know it seems ridiculous to be like, I was cultural diversity in an area, but it felt like that, and just being a little bit different, and some of those things that like I never had boyfriends growing up, and I feel like I was pretty happy, but I think there was a sense that I wasn't necessarily like I didn't have one clique, and I like different things. And the more I started to own that and to appreciate my differences and not want to fit in, that was a becoming in its own sense, And then there's disappointment and certain things not working out and certain things just seeming so easy, and just riding that wave, and you start to see you start to really look at what your beliefs are, and is this coming from me, and then choosing that as you age. And my parents are fantastic, wonderful people, great, I'm so grateful for them, and I'm so grateful to have my experience with the church, but that I have a different relationship with the church now,
I have a couple of questions, but first one is, how is it different now? So I'll start there. What has changed for you from that upbringing? Seems like from what you're saying, not necessarily fitting in, kind of set the tone for your exploration and like really digging deeper in a different way. So what is your relationship with the church now, from you and also from them? How do they accept you? And I know a lot of times folks coming from a certain place, and then, you know, now you're doing a movie and you're doing this. And so how do people feel about that? So it's also like that other side. How are you being perceived? What's the feedback? And what do you feel in relation to the church and all of that?
Well, I appreciate the church for what it is. I just don't identify as a Christian anymore. I don't take on that identity. And I can really love a good church service. I love the story and the worship and the song. It's just not part of my identity anymore. And that doesn't mean that oftentimes handbell choirs are associated with the church, but not all of them are, you know? And also, I don't feel the need to poo-poo on that for people that still feeds their soul in that way, you know? So that feels really great. And the more I just stay centered on my own existence and my own, I used to hate the saying, stay in your lane. I used to hate it because I thought, don't you tell me what to do? And like, I can do all these different things. Like, I can be in this lane and that lane. And then I thought about it one day, not too long ago. And I thought, I can only drive one car, you know?
Amen.
And like, what's happening in my own car is all that I can do. So what other people think about what I'm up to now, that is on them. I really feel as though I get more affirmation than anything else. You know, I've been to some film festivals now, checking things out and just like seeing what's out there. And there's really never been a better time for this lighthearted and joy-filled story. And there is like elements of, there's an arc in it, and it is not, you know, it is inspired by, it's not, you know, exactly true events, but it's been really fun to see that all come together and how something starts as an idea, and then there's an outline, and then there was a first draft, and then it changed a little bit, and now it's a little bit different than it was before. And who knows, it could evolve even more as the team grows, because I know it takes so much. It does.
Yeah.
It takes so much to put something on. And I bet it takes a lot more to put on this podcast than people realize, all the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. My other question.
I'm curious, like, what made you inspired to create this podcast, the Source Connect? How'd you come up with the name Source Connection? Because I just love that. I do.
Yeah, well, it found us. So Liz and I met in 2020, October of 2020. And then we're sisters right away. And we just started having these conversations. And we were like, you know what? I bet this might be serving for others, these types of conversations that her and I are used to having. It's not anything special necessarily, but we're like, maybe people aren't having these types of conversations right now, you know. And it was a very challenging time, right, on the planet. So thought, let's do Liz said, we need to do a podcast. And I was like, it just immediately was a yes. And then I said, it has to be a video podcast. And then Liz, you know, the name came through Liz, and right. Yeah. You said it, the Source Connection. I said, yep, that's totally right.
Here we are.
I just love the creative process.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
I call them downloads. Like, I just get these downloads.
Mm.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, I'll get this download and I'll be so like in love with it. And I realized that I had to have that, you know, because I've mentioned certain things not working out. And then I had to have that that belief carried me to this next place.
Mm.
And you never know what idea is going to lead to the next ideas. And I've been playing in all sorts of different, being out in California, just giving myself permission to do all sorts of things and try improv and take a tap class. And it doesn't mean that I don't love handbells. It's just, I'm just exploring, you know?
Did you ever think that you would play yourself in the movie?
Oh, no. And that was part of a little bit of the showbiz drama. You know, Carmen and I look so much alike, and she's a fantastic actress. And I really did intend that she would play me. But after we just started writing, it was like, I got to play myself. You know, there isn't really, and we're not get to work that out, you know?
Yeah. How did you ladies get to meet?
Yeah, that was my question.
Just magic. Same thing, you know?
And so what's been the process so far of creating this film, and what has surprised you or delighted you?
There's been so much surprise and delight in seeing how things come together. That to me is just so fun. And because I love the creation process, and you know, I've always loved movies, to see a little bit of how that happens is a deeper appreciation you have for another art form and for other artists. And that has been a lot of surprise and delight, and just how things, you know, you think this thing and then it shifts, and then you meet this person, or this person knows that person, or oh, I don't know who I'd want to direct the movie, and then it's like, oh, and also just being in collaboration, you know, it's different when it's like, okay, this is the song we're playing and these are the notes. Pretty straightforward. And I had an appreciation for the medium of film before, but it's just grown so much. It's grown so much. And I've always loved language and words. That's something about the human experience that I just think is so beautiful, because everything communicates. Like trees communicate, animals communicate, but humans have this capacity to choose certain words and arrange them in a specific manner to elicit a response from somebody, or to convey an emotion, or to tell the story. Like, everything is a story, really. And I'm just excited to be a part of this thing that's so much bigger than myself, and to hopefully share a story that resonates with people, that the whole family can watch, that's fun, and that, you know, hits you in the heart a little bit.
What is can you give us a little teaser of what the movie's about? And
yes. So, one moment. The movie is called Henrietta and the Southern Bells, and the logline is, when the International Handbell Symposium is canceled due to a storm, an underdog handbell trio saves the day, the community, and themselves. So that's inspired by the International Handbell Symposium was not canceled. So there's this mix of like an imagined world with elements that are real. So I guess that's some magical realism. And I love it. I love that so much. And I feel like it's, again, another analogy for life itself. because you take these things that are true, and at the same time, there's so much of how we experience life that we have more control over than I think we sometimes we realize. And that's another thing about mastery. So creating reality as opposed to just only facing it. And there's an element of both, you know. Thank goodness for gravity. I love that. You know, so that's true. That's true. I'm not trying to escape reality, you know, that reality, but there's a lot of other things that, like, I'm just going to go ahead and create something.
Something else.
Over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned in the beginning how we're all creators, how we're all artists. And
Yes.
yeah, can you expand on that process too? Because you're in a new medium of movie and you're here on a new medium, a podcast and all of that. So how do you feel in that actualizing those creations or those ideas, and how has that been for you?
I think that everybody is an artist. Mm-hmm. And I think the greatest work of art anybody ever creates is the life that they live. You know, so it's an attitude, it's a mentality, it's being in love with whatever it is you do. There are mother artists, there are people out there just parenting like it is a masterpiece, and they make masterpieces, and you can see it, and it's real and tangible. And I wonder if they think of like, wow, I'm really good at this. Look at this that I created. You know, and it's when you go to the store and somebody leaves that you feeling better than when you stepped in, and you didn't just get something that you needed. You had this human interaction that feeds you. So it's, to me, when I say everybody is an artist, everybody has the capacity to live that way, to see through the lens of, I matter. And when you asked me about that, the first word that came up was value. Value. I value my existence and being a part of this greater existence. You know, and we all have moments. Oh man, I'm human. Woo! I'm human, and I feel all the feels. I feel feelings very strongly. You know, I like to say, I'm not bipolar. I have a strong emotional guidance system. But those are things like I thought for periods of time, like, oh, you know, I may have this tendency because I feel things so strongly. And that's just a story I let go of. And I just tend to focus on that. Like, yeah, I just have really strong feelings, and that's a gift. But you know, the way people care for each other, that's to me artistry. And you can be an artist of being a teacher, the way you show up and the way you teach. Like anything that you do, people working on the roads, sometimes we don't always show appreciation for like how things come to be. I got to this podcast space I drove my car on a road, and somebody had to make that, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So much opportunity for gratitude.
Yes. And I've found that when I'm growing and I'm grateful, I just experience magic. My life is so full. It's so rich. I'm in love. I'm in love with my life. When I don't and this is where mastery comes in, and failure is a part of it, but it's not really failure because you're always either winning or learning. You know, I learn regularly that when I don't keep up with my growth, then I experience pain, you know? And it's this aspect of loving yourself as you are, appreciating yourself whole, perfect as I am, and also wanting to experience growth and to have things I want to do and create and experience too.
Yeah. Was that something that was part of your upbringing, this kind of like vision or container? Like, did you grow up infused with us with this kind of thing, or was it something that was your own journey into coming?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think that there are things of positive attitude, and part of it was getting away from it, like having that foundation being there, and then kind of living life on, I wouldn't say I didn't always live life in alignment with my own standards. And so I've experienced what that's like too. And then going back to cultivate it. And when I think I have the gift of experience in that, because I know what it's like to be like, I'm doing this and I'm getting this. And, I wanted to go to there was one school I was going to, and it's the only school I applied for, and then I had to get into the talent aspect, but I was like, it's done, and it just seemed that like, and so to experience life, not living life not in accordance to my own standards, that caused a lot of pain. And then getting back to it, it's like anybody can transform and change. So I know what it's like to just like make the right choices. And then I know what it's like to, and I think part of it was my curiosity about the human condition. Oh, what's this like? Oh, yeah, no, thank you. And
yeah, go ahead.
And the last thing I'll say about that, but and that goes back to my desire to make life. I share these things, and I do hope to inspire people, on some level or not. But the best way you can do that is living, just being a living example of love and compassion and kindness and like artistry. I'm sorry, I got lost in that just for just a second, just feeling that and knowing that no matter what, you're always worthy. It's like the $100 bill, right? And I feel like I've experienced this. So I've been that crisp, clean $100 bill, just so beautiful. And then I know what it's like to be the $100 bill that might have been like scrumpled up, thrown out, run over by a car, maybe somebody peed on it. But it's still
$100.
$100. The value of that money did not change. So I get to be that. And I have always resonated, like ever since I was younger, I've always resonated with the underdog a little bit. Like I read, how many times did Lincoln run for office and fail? A lot. But if he didn't keep at it, he never would have been one of the greatest presidents we've had. Like, what a figure in history. I'm not comparing myself to Abraham Lincoln. I want to say that right now.
You are welcome to Henrietta. It's all good. Well, I wanted to ask you mentioned a couple of times.
Oh, Henrietta, the next movie she's playing Abraham Lincoln.
You know what?
Now I would love to play somebody other than myself. I think
maybe that's
really
next. Maybe that's next.
Well, I have a lot of ideas. I have some ideas. So there, you may see Henrietta do some things on her own now that she's been inspired by.
Yeah,
I just think a rock opera would be really fun. One of my handbells in space. I mean, come on, mixing sci-fi with The beautiful art. I feel like maybe I'm cryogenically frozen and then I wake up to save the world with handbells. I mean, that could be real beautiful.
I would watch that, Henrietta. I would watch you in that.
I just can't help myself. I know I probably should just keep it things to myself.
We're all about letting yourself shine here, whoever you are. So no hiding.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, you mentioned a couple of times the standards that if you weren't in alignment with your standards, would you like to share those with us, what you feel your standards are, or one or two?
Well, it has to less specifically without it being like, oh, this thing and this thing. Instead of just caring for your body and your mind and your soul, and especially when you see the best in people, it's that discernment. So like always seeing everybody as good, and yet is this an environment that I really need to be in? Is this an environment where we celebrate each other and we challenge each other to be our best self? Or is this an environment where, we talk about what we want to do, but we don't take action, or we complain, or just putting stuff, the more that I tend to my body, and it's with what I feed it, and it's with my, what I'm reading, what I'm watching. I can't really watch a whole lot of stuff where people are nasty to each other.
Yeah. We've talked about that here before, I think.
And and that's another thing of, like loving movies so much growing up, and like loving these stories and being like, oh, well, there may be a story here in my story, but I know I was really vague on those things. But for me, there's a period of my life where I was drinking heavily, and that didn't do me any good. And none of the people I was doing that with were bad people. It just wasn't a good environment for me to be in, hanging out in bars and all that stuff.
I think you were very clear. That it may be something that some folks haven't thought about, but how is your environment conducive to your unfolding in the way that you would like it to be, right? And as you mentioned, the creative part, the artistry, being the artist and the author, having authority over your life, and how would you like your life to unfold, and being clear about those things, it's actually very important. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's not just completely by chance that we find ourselves in certain environments, and what is the gift in those relationships or environments for me, and how much is it serving that unfolding or not, and then deciding, what works and what doesn't, based on this strong sense of self that you have.
And there are very well-known artists and people that have achieved great things in life that like also had these. I think about Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin,
right?
That seem to be fueled by these things, and yet I think what would their creativity have been like if they didn't do those things?
Right.
But perhaps it just would have been more sustainable. Like we think, oh, their artistry came from their madness. Maybe it was a part of it, but maybe it was despite their madness and not because of it. But who knows? That is not my story. Like my story, I just couldn't like. It just didn't work for me. So, and that's that is where stay in your lane, this is my car, and my car just works better when I'm feeding it, whole foods that aren't real processed. And there's also this element of like being afraid of anything. And I don't want to do that either, because I've definitely been like so restrictive, and it was, that's coming from a place of fear too, instead of a place of love. And I mentioned being human, and like we're human too. So it's all those experiences and finding out what works for you, for me, for you.
Yeah.
You know, there's I get so tickled about because I can't help but see certain things. Like I don't watch the news because it's just never been, I just don't see value in it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And but you catch bits and it's been so funny. I started an Instagram page just playing with social media, like what's this like, and letting it be a fun thing. So it's like me, I have to understand that like this is a mastery. I have to be the master of Instagram and not let it, because I have noticed like if I'm on the social media a little too much, it affects my mood.
Yeah.
So I need to be I have to create more than I consume. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think about just the place where I feel centered and aligned and joyful and happy is like I'm just tending to the garden. And it's the soil. Sometimes you have to take a look at the soil. The soil, like, if the soil isn't healthy, then like you're not going to get the best harvest. So that's where you're tending to the soil and you're just plucking weeds and joyously tending to my garden. That's when things flow, and you know, then the right person like, oh, this is what I want, and then it just shows up. You know, because I think that life is supposed, for me, because I have I'm eliminating the word struggle from my daily vocabulary, from my story. It's just not a part of my story anymore. But I've lived it, and I lived it because I know I'm not supposed to live that way. And you hear about all these stories, like I know I mentioned letting go of stories about Hollywood and the industry so that I can have my own story. And one of the things that I love about Carmen and Lynna is that before, you know, when I would come in and give ideas and help, but they wrote it. You know, I'm not claiming to write it, and it's not my movie. It is it's a story that we're co-creating together. But we made a commitment that this would be fun and easy, you know. So,
and it has been.
It has been so far, yes.
Awesome.
So we're just like continuing to pre-pave that path, to set the thermostat to like, we want everybody who is a part of this to experience joy and like the pure joy of creating.
What a beautiful premise to start something on.
Yeah. For everybody who watches it, that's what they're going to feel. When can we expect to see this, the creation of this, or is it just we don't know yet?
We don't know yet. We have a timeline. So we have a timeline, and we'd love to be in post-production by July. We had a live reading in January just to breathe some life into it, and had an audience and fantastic actors. These actors are, I know I use the word tickle, but it just tickled me that they would agree to lend their time and talents to breathe some life into it. And we'd love for all of them to be in the movie. So it was just real fun. And I mean, you may know more than I do. So I'm just learning, like, there's all these pieces, and there's a couple big pieces that we like to have. We see having in the next couple weeks, like bringing in the right producing partner and the right director. And I know funding is a thing. So we have an idea of what our budget is, and it's pretty reasonable. So we just see that all coming together.
Yeah.
I'm excited to experience that unfolding as well.
Yeah.
And we'll put the call out right here and right now. If any of our listeners would like to contribute their talents, their abundance, whatever they may have to contribute, we put that call out, and you can connect with us, and we'll connect you with Henrietta and Carmen.
Yes, I do have a funny story. So, I don't know how, I was like, I don't know who I'd want to direct this movie. And then we got a download, the team got a download, and we're like, this person, and their initials are, and he is a man, his initials are TS. And so I had an extra t-shirt. I had these t-shirts made. It's a peace sign and handbells, because the handbells really are a symbol for world peace. And it's why they started the International Handbell Symposium, was started by a Japanese artist and an American artist on the anniversary of Hiroshima, to come together and prevent something like that from ever happening again. Because when we come to play music, we put aside our cultural differences, and we just come together to create something beautiful. So when I say it's about music, but really it's about world peace, people chuckle at it, but I do mean it.
Yeah.
Backstory.
Yeah.
So I put together this gift, and I dropped off a t-shirt, and I just took it to, I found there's this thing called IMDb where you can look at movies, and y'all probably know this, but I just found a name and his agent, and I drove over to the agency and dropped off this gift. And then within 5 days, I was talking to somebody, updating them on, what we had done. And they're like, I know that person. They're a friend of mine. So I don't think that's the best ambassador for our story. But it just reminds me of how the more I'm just in a place of joy and open, that's when these magical connections happen, more so than going to a networking event. Because I like to do that too, and meet people, but it's really in the appreciation for the small things. I think that's part of the artistry of living, of being human. Seeing the beauty in these tiny things has been such a it's been a practice that just gives you the most juicy little gifts. It's you know what I'm talking about. I'm having a hard time articulating in words what that experience is like. But yes.
I think you're doing a great job articulating it, because I can feel it.
Yeah, I felt it.
It's a frequency.
It's a frequency. Yeah.
It's everything. Yeah.
Oh, Henrietta, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm just
It's been so fun.
Wow. Well, Clyde, we're almost done. Y'all, Clyde does not like to be. I have a partner named Clyde, and he's so supportive. He's just cheering me on in the corner. But I always like to give him a shout out with he does not want to be on camera, and he doesn't want to be.
Oh, come on, Clyde.
No, I do not push. I just honor his boundaries.
Where you want to share where people can find you?
Yes.
Your Instagram, is that where you're at? Where they can find your musings? Is there? Yeah.
Yes, you can find me on the gram. It's Henrietta Woodcox Handbells.
Okay.
And that is the best place to connect with me. Send me a message. If you want to email me, you can email fleshonesie@gmail.com.
Got it.
fleshonesie@gmail.com. And I do have a link to the live reading. And if people are, Carmen and Lynna are pretty open to people reading the script for anybody listening that might have, some interest or know somebody that directed this documentary called I Am. So we'd love to connect with this person that made this documentary called I Am.
All right.
Beautiful film. Yeah. Awesome.
I'd love to know what your favorite song is before we end. I've just talked so much about myself, but I'd love to know that.
Oh,
if you have a favorite song.
Oh, that's such a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Liz, go ahead if you have a favorite song.
I don't know if I have a favorite song, but I will talk about a favorite artist recently. I think that's valid, right? So there's this man in England. His name is Ren, R-E-N, and I am just smitten with his music, his artistry, the ability that he has to play with words, his skill with the guitar, and it's just amazing. And he brings in a lot of his own experience with mental wellness and mental health. So that's a lot of what he sings about. And it's been very interesting to notice how someone else's art can impact your own healing, can be a healing tool for you. So that's why I wanted to bring him up, because here we are talking about artistry and mastery. And
artists, yeah.
I'm very grateful that his art has touched me in such deep ways, and it's been a healing journey for me just to listen to him. So shout out to Ren.
Thank you.
I too will share an artist or a group that is one of my longtime favorites, and that's Muse. They have a lot of beautiful music that varies a lot over the years. And one of my favorite songs from them is called Uprising, and it always really gets me pumped up. So if I'm like, I want to be pumped up mood, then I just go right to that song. It does the trick. Yeah.
What is your favorite song? Do you have a favorite song?
I don't have a favorite song, but I recently was introduced to a beautiful chorus.
Oh, I love them.
And I love them.
Yeah. Yes, me too. It's so interesting to talk about music for me as a musician, because immediately after I said it and Tarah started to talk, I'm like, this is so unfair. There's so
there's so many.
Right? So not to take away. So I guess that's the message. It's like all of your talents are a healing tool for someone else too, not only yourself. And it's going to hit everyone differently at different times. And so to not shy away from birthing what you need to birth in this. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love y'all. Thank you so much for inviting me to this space and for creating this container.
Maybe we'll do a watch party when the movie is out and ready to.
Yes.
I would love that. I would love that.
Yes, we would love that, Henrietta.
Maybe we'll have Henrietta for a Q&A at the end. I don't know.
Ooh, maybe, yeah.
Yes, I'm open. I'm open.
And Carmen and all the other.
Yeah, whoever.
That would be awesome. Whoever wants to come. Yeah, whoever wants to come.
Not.
Yes. Well, keep us posted. Keep us posted here. We'd love to have some updates. And
we will.
All right.
We will.
Bye, everyone.